This is the first lecture of Unit 5 on motivation, emotion, and stress. There are 3 chapters in this unit, and you are going to be reading quite a bit in the next week. But I do think this is one of the most interesting units, and I really want you to analyze your own motivation, your own emotion, your own stress levels. You will get so much more out of this unit if you can be honest with yourself and kind of analyze your behaviors as we go. So as far as motivation goes, a motive or a drive, you'll use the terms interchangeably, is a specific need or a desire, such as being hungry or being thirsty or having the motivation to achieve something. A motive is anything that prompts you to accomplish something. It prompts you in order to obtain your goal. It's a goal-directed behavior. A need or desire that energizes behavior and directs it towards a goal. That is a motive or a drive. And in the next 2 lectures, we're going to be really analyzing what motivates you as a person. Motives are triggered by a stimulus. Usually that stimulus is an incentive, something that is positive or something that is negative. So you are motivated to do good things to receive rewards, or you are motivated to not do bad things so that you don't get punished. One type of incentive could be bodily conditions. So for example, when your blood sugar drops, that motivates you to eat or drink to raise your blood sugar. An incentive can also be a cue in the environment, such as an AP test or having success in college. That cue, making a good grade on the test or being successful in college, can be enough of an incentive to motivate you to achieve something. But also emotion can be an incentive. So feeling things such as fear or joy or surprise, those things can motivate us. None of us want to feel sad. I would hope that we don't want to feel that emotion all the time. And so we are motivated to find joy in things, even when we're feeling down. When the stimulus creates a goal-directed behavior, it motivates the person to achieve something. When you feel cold, you are motivated enough to put on more clothes or to grab a blanket. When you want to get an A on your AP psychology test, you are motivated enough to listen to all of these long lectures, to read all of the pages in your book, to go to the review session, to do the optional study guide. That's motivating you towards a goal of getting an A or being not being cold. Now, there are 4 perspectives on motivation that we're going to cover in this lecture. We'll cover more in the following lecture. The 4 perspectives include the following. There's an instinct theory, which is no longer in favor. You've got the drive reduction theory, the arousal theory, and the hierarchy of motives theory. So we'll go through each one of these individually. The instinct theory of motivation has a lot to do with evolutionary psychology. An instinct is basically a complex behavior that a species has throughout its life. It's usually a fixed pattern throughout that species' life. It's not learned. If something is instinctual, it's not like you have learned to do that behavior. So where the woman builds different kinds of houses, that's a learned behavior. The bird builds only one kind of nest, and that nest is instinctual. Instincts, there used to be hundreds of instincts that people thought motivated humans to accomplish things. The instinct theory of motivation fell out of favor. Humans don't just act out of instincts. We act out of incentives. We are motivated to accomplish things through these incentives. The second theory is the drive reduction theory. This deals a lot or mostly with bodily needs. The drive reduction theory says that a physiological need creates an aroused tension within us. That's the drive that motivates us to satisfy that need. So for example, let's say that you have a need for food. That need for food, being hungry, none of us like to be hungry. I hate being hungry. My husband says that I'm hangry, right? It's hungry and angry. That's what happens when I get hungry. None of us want to need food. But when we do, when we are hungry, that creates this tension within us. We do not like tension as humans. That tension is going to bother us so much that we are going to be driven. We are going to be motivated to reduce our hunger therefore we eat. Same thing with water. None of us want to be thirsty. When we're thirsty, that creates tension within us. That tension is going to drive us or motivate us to reduce our thirst, therefore we will drink. That's the drive reduction theory. This theory is based on the idea of homeostasis. Homeostasis is the maintenance of a steady internal state. Our bodies like to be balanced. When our bodies aren't balanced, we are thrown off. That tension is created. And so in order to maintain homeostasis, we want to maintain this internal state. So when our stomach is empty, it makes this tension. We're hangry. We want to eat. That drive is reduced. We eat. We're no longer hungry. Our need is met. There are two types of drives. Primary drives, these are unlearned. Most oftentimes, primary drives are physiological drives. Things like being hungry, being thirsty. And actually, the need for sex is an unlearned primary drive. We'll get to sexual motivation in the next lecture. And then you have secondary drives. These are learned drives. So we want to do well in school so we get A's so that we're successful. We have learned that. That's not instinctual. That's not primary. That's not a primary drive. Or we want to be wealthy, so we go to college. We go and get a graduate degree. We get the career that we want to obtain wealth. That's a secondary drive. But it's not just balance that we're looking for. It's not just this homeostatic state. The third theory of motivation is the optimum arousal theory, or the optimal arousal theory. This says that human motivation aims to seek optimum levels of arousal, not to eliminate it. An example of this, young monkeys and children are known to explore the environment in the absence of a need-based drive. So they have put monkeys in a small room, and monkeys are going to explore the room even though there's no incentive for them to explore. Small children will do the same thing. It's not like they've been told, hey, if you explore this room, you're going to get rewarded, or if you don't, you're going to get punished. But the optimum level of arousal says that human motivation aims to seek an optimal level of arousal. It cannot be too much and it cannot be too little. That's the Yerkes-Dodson law of motivation. This law states that there is an optimal level of arousal for best performance on any task. If the task is too easy, humans are going to give up. We're not interested. Nope, that's too easy. If the task is too hard, we're going to give up. Nope, that's too hard. And the more complex the task, the lower level of arousal that can be tolerated without interfering with performance. So we as teachers have to follow this Yerkes-Dodson law, because if we make a test too easy, you're not going to take it seriously. But if we make a test too hard, you're going to give up and not take it seriously. So if you look at this graph of the Yerkes-Dodson law, you've got performance on one axis and tension and arousal or anxiety on another. If your anxiety is high, your performance on that task is going to be low. So if I give you a really, really, really hard test that produces a lot of anxiety in you, you're probably not going to do very well on that test. However, if I give you a test that's very, very, very easy and it produces a low level of anxiety, you might also do really poorly on the exam because you don't care. You're not motivated enough to do well. So I've got to make that test somewhere in the middle. It's got to both comfort you and produce a little bit of anxiety in order for your performance to be at its optimal level of arousal. And again, the Yerkes-Dodson law says the more simple a task is, the higher arousal level is needed. Whereas the more complex or the harder a task is, the lower level of arousal. Should make pretty good sense. The last theory of motivation is the hierarchy of needs theory. Abraham Maslow, who we'll talk more about when we get to the theories of personality, suggested that certain needs have priority over others. For example, physiological needs like breathing, thirst, and hunger come before all of our psychological needs, such as self-esteem or achievement or the need for recognition. Because we can't care about self-esteem, we can't care about doing good things and achieving things if we are hungry or if we are thirsty. Maslow's hierarchy of needs looks like this. At the bottom, you've got the physiological needs that are coming first. Then, once we have our hunger and thirst met, we can worry about our safety needs. the need to feel safe, to feel secure. Once we have our safety needs met, we can move on to belongingness and love needs, the needing to be accepted by society or to avoid alienation. Once we have our belongingness needs, we can move to self-esteem, where we become competent and independent. And at the very top of the pyramid is this self-actualization. This is the need to live up to your fullest and unique potential. There is no way we can ever get to the self-actualization need, though, if we are hungry. If we don't have a secure place to live, if we don't have a house or a roof over our head, we're never going to need to belong, or that's not what we're going to be concerned with, at least. This is Maslow's theory as far as the hierarchy of needs. And if you have read the book, Fault in Our Stars, you know towards the end of the book, there is this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So those are the 4 theories of motivation that we have gone through. You are going to be writing about these theories of motivation in your project for this unit. And if you are listening and you have gotten to the end of this lecture, I am going to give you a very large hint. Tomorrow, you are going to have a reading quiz. And on the reading quiz, there is going to be an extra credit question, and it's going to look like this. It's going to have XC, and it's going to say, if you listen to the online lecture, you know what to do. For extra credit on the reading quiz tomorrow, I want you to write your name backwards, your full name. That will be your extra credit question on the quiz tomorrow. So if you've made it this far, not only do you know that you're having a reading quiz tomorrow, you also know what the extra credit question is going to be, and that is to write your name backwards, your full name.